Hi guys, welcome to my movie recommendation channel. Today I talk about the film Bicycle Thief. Ladri di Biciclitte was an Italian film released in 1948. It was directed and written by Vittoria di Sica. This is a very moving film and I can promise you a tear in your eye as the film ends. So it's been set in Rome after the Second World War. There's a lot of poverty amongst the citizens at that time. The protagonist of story, Antonio Ricci does not have a job. The story has been set in post-World War II Italy. And in order to get the job of pasting posters all over the city, the company that's hiring him requires him to have a bicycle from the first day of the job. His wife Maria works very hard too, and the couple had really been counting on Richie's job to be able to make ends meet. They also have a little son who goes to school. So Maria gives Richie the bed sheets that she had received as part of her dowry at the time of their wedding, and she asks him to sell them so that he can get some money to buy the bicycle. Richie sells the bed sheets and gets himself a bicycle, and he joins the job immediately. Bicycle Thieves is a wonderful mix of drama and realism. Little sweet moments of life have been beautifully captured and woven into the film. There's a scene in which Antonio Ricci's son looks into the mirror of the dressing table and he's combing his hair before he leaves with his father after Antonio Ricci has got himself a bicycle. This film brings to the surface the joys and pains of a simple man's simple life. And the audience can literally feel how important it is for the father to be his little son's hero, however common a person he may be. There's a scene in which there are two children who are street musicians, and the man working besides Richie kind of pushes one of them, but then they still carry on with their music. So these kinds of details provide a very realistic touch to the film because it used to happen at the time around the city. This is the story of an honest, hard-working man as an avalanche falls upon him. Richie's pain, anxiety, and frustration can be felt. Calamity befalls when a thief steals his bicycle when Richie is busy pasting posters. Their son Bruno had also been very proud of his father's bicycle. And the rest of the film has a very moving plot which revolves around Antonio's search for his bicycle, especially as it is impossible for him to buy another one. And without the bicycle, he may lose his job. Even though it's in Italian, the film is very involving as I watched it with English subtitles. The sets are authentic and real locations have been used to shoot the film. All the extra actors seem very involved in their roles. And what's interesting is that since this is a new realism film, all of the cast consists of non-professionals. When Antonio Ricci files a police complaint regarding the theft of his bike, they aren't very helpful. And they tell him that they're very busy and they tell him to go and look for his bike himself if he can all over Rome. Even though he has already filed the serial number and the description of the bicycle with the police officer. And there's a scene in which one police officer asks the other if it's a serious matter when Antonio has just filed his complaint with the other officer. The other officer replies, just a bicycle. They don't even realize how sad it is for Antonio Ricci. In another scene where Antonio Ricci is returning from the police station empty-handed and he has taken the bus to go to pick up his son from his school, and it's very late. His son has been waiting for a long time and it's already 7:30, and his son asks him where the bicycle is and Antonio does not reply. His son asks him if it broke down and Antonio says yes, it broke down. He doesn't have the heart to break his son's heart. The film Bicycle Thieves was based on a novel. Luigi Bartolini wrote the novel Ladri di Biciclitte in 1946. He was an Italian painter, writer and poet. Although it's been adapted from a novel, Bicycle Thieves is quite different from the novel. It does have some similarities. Bicycle Thieves is an Italian neorealism film. Neorealism was a national film movement in Italy and it was also known as the golden age of Italian cinema. It focused on the stories of the poor and the working class, and it delved into the themes of injustice, the struggles of daily life, especially after the war, and contemporary stories, etc., with authentic life depictions. The director, Vittoria di Sica, wrote, "The man in the street, particularly if he is directed by someone who himself is an actor, is a raw material that can be molded at will. It is difficult, perhaps impossible, for a fully trained actor to forget his profession. It is far easier to teach it, to hand on just the little that is needed, just what will suffice for the purpose at hand." The leading actor Lamberto Maggiorani, who plays the role of Antonio Ricci, the protagonist of the story, was actually a factory worker in real life. And he didn't even want to be an actor. So what really happened is that when in April 1948, De Sica was casting non-professionals for various roles, Lamberto Maggiorani's wife, Giuseppina Maggiorani, heard the announcement on the radio and she took her son's photograph to De Sica's office. De Sica didn't cast the child, but he ended up casting his father for the protagonist role. One day, Antonio Ricci's wife Maria has been played by Lianella Carell, who was originally a writer, a playwright, and a journalist. And soon she became an Italian actress and screenwriter. Enzo Staiola, who plays the role of Bruno, Antonio Ricci's son, he was coming out of school in real life. One day he was coming out of school and he noticed a car following him and he ran all the way home because he was scared that they might be bad people trying to kidnap children or something of the sort. That was the end of it and he didn't even want to meet De Sica. Of course, at the time he didn't know who he was. De Sica had auditioned over 5,000 children all over Italy. The next day, Vittoria De Sica held auditions near where Enzo Staiola lived, near the Colosseum. He happened to be amongst the crowd of spectators, and by the time Enzo had forgotten about the events of the previous day, and Vittorio De Sica walked up to him and he said, "He's the one." De Sica had also picked another child, Enzo Shirosico, for the same role, and for a month both the children spent time doing the same scenes one by one. And in the end, they picked up an Enzo Staiola and gave a bicycle to the other child. As De Sica described Enzo Staiola, who played the role of Bruno, an odd-looking child with a round face, a big funny nose, and wonderfully living eyes. And so De Sica ended up picking his Bruno for Bicycle Thieves. The actors have acted very well, especially Lamberto Maggiorani, who plays the role of Antonio Ricci, and Lianella Carell, who plays the role of his wife Maria. Bicycle Thieves was scripted in a very methodical way and the production was also very carefully planned. Unlike what one would usually expect from a neo-realism film, thinking that it might be very on the spot and real, just shot in a documentary kind of way. So it wasn't like that. Set design, the props and costumes are very relevant to the era of the 40s and is very convincing. Authentic. So this film was titled Ladri di Biciclitte, which translates to Bicycle Thieves in English, but while being exported to America, it was translated as The Bicycle Thief. Although the reason for this error remained unclear, it was correctly titled Bicycle Thieves in the United Kingdom. And in 2007, Criterion corrected the American title when they released the definitive version of the film. So if you have access to the Criterion channel, that is also one place that you could watch this film. Bicycle Thieves had to cut out 2 scenes without which the Hollywood censorship board wasn't approving it. When the famous Indian film director Satyajit Ray was working in an advertisement agency in London, he saw the film and it inspired him to become a filmmaker. Cesare Zavattini was nominated for the Oscar for Best Writing Screenplay. At the Academy Awards, Bicycle Thieves was awarded an honorary award as the most outstanding foreign language film. It also won many other prestigious awards as the best film. Bicycle Thieves was shot on the streets of Rome, which added to the realism of the film and provided an authentic ambience of the city. Vittorio De Sica was an Italian director and actor. He was one of those who led the neo-realism movement in Italy and he won many prestigious awards. Bicycle Thieves might look like a simple film, but it's actually very deep. The story for this film was done by Cesare Zavattini and the screenplay was written by Oreste Biancoli, Vittorio De Sica, Adolfo Franchi, Gerardo Guarreri, Cesare Zavattini, and Suso Cecchi D'Amico. Vittorio De Sica also produced this film along with his co-producer Giuseppe Amato. This is rated as one of the best films in the world of international cinema. And I absolutely recommend this film to you. You should really take the time out to watch it once at least. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one.